Hello, and welcome to another episode from the desk of a Navy wife, where you may or may not hear my kiddos in the background. My name is Raina Worthy, and on this podcast, we like to dive deep into the unique challenges, triumphs, and experiences that come with being a military spouse. So kick back, relax, make that cup of coffee, or get that evening dinner ready, and just listen to me in the background. Hi, everyone. I am joined today by Brooke Grossmann, the founder of For the Love of Funds. Brooke, I'm going to have you share a little bit about yourself, speak about your business, and how long you've been a military spouse.
My name is Brooke Grossmann. Like she said, I have been a military spouse for 17 years. I'm trying to remember exactly.
Long time,
Yeah,
yeah.
my husband actually is a recent retiree from the Marine Corps, but we didn't get married when he was in boot camp or anything like that. He was a corporal at the time, so I think he had a couple years in. He had a deployment at the time, so he had a little bit under his belt before he entered me into this
In this
situation.
world, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But as far as business too, for me, when becoming part of the military life, I started out volunteering, getting involved, and doing personal finance. So I've been in the personal finance world for over 15 years as well.
Well, I'm excited that you work on the finances. I know a lot of us in this world, we may know a little bit about it, we may not, or maybe we're trying to get everything together as we prep for PCS season. And so that is what we'll be talking about today with PCS season upon us. And you're going to be covering like the power of networking as you prepare for your PCS. So could you please share a little bit about your personal experience with networking during this crazy season that's upon us?
Absolutely. And so before with going into personal finance, I was doing that, but I started involving myself in many different things as a military spouse, trying to be involved in communities. So with networking, one of the big things that I did back a few years ago was actually in direct sales. I was in a business working with people, and I decided to network around my community at that time to be able to meet people, so that way I could be involved a little bit more. So with the PCS season, I know that it's important to be able to connect with people, go into new areas. And that was
Right,
with the direct sales. That was also how I met people. I was like, hey, I'm
right.
in this area, I'm in this business. And they're like, oh, I need somebody come to this area. And it was also, it was a fun thing to do.
You spoke on how important it is, especially with us as military spouses. So, what are some effective ways that we can start really building those connections when we're prepping for that new duty station or new base that some people call it, or new post before
Yeah.
we actually arrive?
I think before arriving, it's really just kind of tapping into your network that you already have and say, hey, who's in this area? Posting it out on Facebook, Instagram, whichever way you're doing it. I know LinkedIn is a big one these days for us to
Yes.
be connecting on. Tap into the networks that you already have, but then there's a lot of groups that are out there too. And when you're moving to a new area, you can say, hey, I'm coming to this area, introduce yourself, because that's always important to
Right.
say, hey, I have kids, I have pets. Some people, if I'd like to say that they have dogs, and that actually helps people connect too. So it's finding those little things that you like to do. Maybe if there's some people that are entrepreneurs like ourselves,
Right.
you can connect into those local groups too to say, hey, I'm moving to this area. What's out there for me? How can you network with ones that are going to be already in the business too?
So you touched on Facebook and Instagram a little bit, and even LinkedIn. So are there any specific groups or resources that you can share or you recommend, both professionally and then personally for us?
I would think that it's just the local groups within the area. You can put in. I'm gonna use Quantico for an example. I know
Okay.
there's Quantico Marine Wives is out there. There is, I think, just there's so many different groups. If you just do a little search and say, you know, Quantico, or whichever area you're in of
Yeah.
spouses or entrepreneurs, that's where you can get connected in. 'Cause there's a lot of people that want to connect with you throughout there. I would also think too, with on the entrepreneur side, get into the local community too with I'm trying to think what it's called, the Chamber of Commerce. It doesn't sound like a big one for military spouses, but really they need us there. I know from where I'm at here in Albany, they look at military, they're trying to be a community of excellence for the military community. So tap into them because they might be able to connect you with other people too and it'll give you a good taste of what's going on in this area or the area you're going to.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that because I think the military spouses chamber of commerce is newer, so people may
Well,
not even know that that exists, but it's like we have our own now. You could get a badge and everything else and network and get
yeah.
resources there. So I'm glad that you touched on that. And I want to say they're also active on LinkedIn, like they have their own page on there. You can look them up on Facebook as well. And AMSE. I want to say that's where we met, the
Yep.
Military Spouse Entrepreneurs
Yep.
organization. And we're listing these off, listeners, but I'm going to share them in the description as well if you do want to check them out. But that is how Brooke and I met, and we're able to connect and network and support each other in our journey. So now my question for you, Brooke, is going to shift a little bit more to, are there any common mistakes that you see military spouses make when they're trying to network during that season of PCS?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Let's see. Let me think about that for just a
Okay.
just make sure I'm answering this right because there's some things that people like to do and that may not be the best idea to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess for me, I would say a mistake may be really just not putting yourself out there. That could be a big one just all in itself.
Right.
Or having an expectation of different people and realizing that you got to figure out what stage you're at in your military spouse journey. I know that I'm a very seasoned spouse, so I have a very different way of saying things maybe than somebody else that's new. So just be willing and open to realizing that you don't know everything, you don't know everyone, even
Exactly.
in the beginning or 20 years in. So I think that
True.
that's just a big mistake is just not realizing that you may be coming from a different point of view or a different point of the journey. So I
I
think that would,
agree. No, that's a good one because some people may not feel comfortable, right, with putting themselves out there. And so, what advice would you have for people that maybe are more introverted or they feel overwhelmed starting again and again?
find somebody that you connect with. I think too, when you move to a new area, you look around at your neighbors. Very thankful for the neighbors that I have that have been around because when you connect with your neighbors too, you're actually finding out a little bit more of what's going on around you
Yeah.
directly, and then you connect with them, and then they may know somebody to connect with. So using them as a way to branch out of the people that you're used to out of the units maybe that your spouse is in too. I guess that goes back to networking too. Just the idea of when you go into a new area, tap into the local unit that you're going with because you're going to be going on the same journey with them in that employment, depending on which branch of service you're with.
Right.
But sometimes you need to be tapping into them too because you may be checking in to say, "Oh, okay, did you know that they're going to be leaving tomorrow?" "Oh no, I didn't know that." Because
Right.
some of the spouses that we have, our husbands don't always like to tell us the information till last minute.
Right.
But that's also
Right.
that's also why you can rely on them too when you're needing it. Because I think too, when you get into a new area, you don't know who to talk to. You don't know who to trust with. Even just having your kids watch out or watch them for just that short period of time that you need. Like, hey, I have a doctor's appointment. I really can't take the kids with
Right.
me,
Yes.
and you need to tap in and realize who you can trust and who's in that unit with you too.
No,
So
I can admit to when I first was introduced to the military spouse world, I kept to myself. I was like, oh, I don't need to meet anybody. I have friends. And then you
yeah,
get out here in the world and you're in this new state and you're like, nobody. So you need to talk to your neighbors, of people across the street.
yep,
And then when my daughter started to get into school, I started to talk to, of course, the other moms and dads
yeah,
out there because they want to have play dates or they may know an event that's going on that you don't know that's going on at the
yep.
school.
Uh, that's exactly it. And like what you said about having just kind of figuring out the things that you're already active in. And just even if you're kind of finding that one friend in each area as an introvert, I feel like sometimes I'm an introvert, but an extrovert depends on the mood I'm in.
Right.
Um, then
Depends on the day.
yeah, it depends on the day. But introverts really, it just, I know the main thing about introverts is the idea of you like being able to have one-on-one conversations. You don't like to go into a crowd, right?
Right.
Because when you're in a crowd, you're like, everybody's watching me, even if I'm not saying anything. So when you're an introvert, just kind of find those people that you really have those small connections with, even if it is with kids or just going to the park too. I think that's another
Yes.
one. Now that the sun's back out again, and we're not like in the wintertime of being cold, go to the park, take your kids to the park and
Yeah.
just sit down and have a friendly face. I have like just a really fun memory of remembering somebody was handing out bubbles. So that could be a simple thing you could do if you really want to be
Yes.
generous. They're
That's
like,
so
here,
nice.
giving them to kids. And that's kind of where it puts you in that conversation too. And you don't feel like you're forced into it either. Um,
Right.
so
And
you
you know
know,
what? That's a good idea. I love that. Like you, even if it's chalk or you're just talking, like they can join. Yeah, take some chalk, draw,
yeah,
and then next thing you know, that could be someone that you have a life lasting relationship, friendship with down the line, or you go to the next station, or you find out that they were at a different station that you were also at.
yeah.
So I love that. So, well, how would you say, or what would you recommend to spouses when it comes to balancing networking on top of the stress of the logistics of moving?
So it's really kind of making sure you're using your network wisely.
Hmm.
Stay in touch with people. I think with networking too is when you're getting to a new place, kind of take your notes of realizing where you're meeting these people. Like it sounds silly, but when you're able to say, "Oh, I remember somebody said that they are part of this. I'm going to go and that's how I'm going to remember when I get there. That's who I want to connect with."
Right.
Um, and even remembering the people that you're currently stationed with too. They may be branching out to some other places. Maybe you actually know somebody that you were out of one spot and like, "Oh, I have a friend there." Connect your friends with your
Yes.
friends. Uh, and
Yes.
yeah, it's
That's a
helpful.
good idea. It is very helpful. When we were stationed in Atsugi, Japan, I had a friend that was going to Sasebo, and I worked with people and had friendships with people in Sasebo. And so when they were moving over there, I literally set them up in a Facebook Messenger. And I said,
Yeah,
"Hey, friend, meet friend," and
yeah.
say they're coming to Sasebo in like a month. She's stressed out. She has some little ones. You've been there. You've extended there. Can you please connect and make recommendations? I
Yeah.
love that. My last question had to do with what's one action step that listeners can take today to feel more prepared for networking ahead of their next PCS.
Maybe an action step is really sitting down to think of what activities you like to do. One of the activities I like to do a lot is volunteering. I volunteer with the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society here. It was something that I got involved with because it's strategic volunteering for me. But I got into it because of the personal finance aspect. So
Hmm.
that's an interest for me. So that's why I would say if you have an interest of things that you like to do, whether it be running, you could be liking to do even cooking, like find out your interests so that way you can when you get to network and meet new people, you can say, "Hey, I like this," and that's your common ground that you can connect with.
I like that, especially like you said, being strategic about it, but of course, still genuine, authentic, and just building upon that ahead of time. I do feel like many of us that have been military spouses for a while, like we already kind of know what to expect with packing and everything else, but we do forget to reach out sometimes ahead of time on Facebook. Hey, I'm coming there in the next 2 months. Does anyone mind sharing this or connecting without impacting OPSEC at the same time? It's like, what can you share? What can't you share? Can I join this group?
But there's those ones that do with the whole connecting to your neighborhood. There is neighborhoods that you can say, "Hey, does anybody know?" Especially if you're living on base housing, does anybody know who this house belongs
Right.
to? And you
Yeah.
never know. They might be connecting with you to say, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood." I was very fortunate to have that happen to me.
Oh
I
my
was
goodness.
coming to an area. We still talk to them to this day, and we haven't been neighbors for 5 years now. So
And then what's so funny is before we came here, where I am now in Florida, we had the same situation. We were like, "Hey, we were told we're gonna get this house. Does anybody know anyone that lived in this house?" And
yeah,
literally, the person that was in my husband's command was like, "Oh, that's my house." And he called him on Facebook Messenger and got to like show the house, show the flooring, all the things to kind of help us see what we're getting into before we say yes or no,
yeah,
and we're like, we know that you still have a couple weeks before you move out and we get in, so we're not pressuring or nothing. We're just curious
yeah.
what to prep for.
Well, it's kind of where sometimes it has to be us against the housing to realize
Yes,
of, hey, what's important. Not trying to get on them a little bit, but that's why we have to connect and
exactly.
say, all right, what's going on in this house? And this is what you need to be prepared for because this is
Hmm.
what's going on. I've been trying to get this fixed for a while, and then
Right.
that way
Heads up.
you're ready to go, and you know it.
Oh yeah, they gave us heads up. They were just like, you're gonna put in some requests for bugs, and I'm like, okay, okay. Good to know our problem areas. So, yes, network before you get there, listeners, reach out to these people. You'll be surprised who you meet, who knows what. Even if it's someone that's walking around the neighborhood, they're like, oh, you're down the street. I walk my dog past that house all the time. I'll peer in the windows to see what it looks like.
And a lot of times people are willing to take pictures of the house too on the
Yes,
outside.
yes. Which,
They will say,
thank
here,
you.
yeah, here's your area so you know what's going around. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Well, Seth, I'm gonna ask you, is there any final tips or information that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Final tips is really just remember when you're networking, be you. That is the most genuine thing you can do. And also, when you're showing up as yourself, you're actually showing up as you, and that's what people need. People don't need fake people. People
Right.
need people need people that are going to be genuine and true. So just remember, be you.
Be you. Thank you so much again for sharing with us today, talking about networking and making sure that we build those connections prior to PCS season. If you're comfortable, I would love for you to talk a little bit about For the Love of Funding, because I would love to have you on a podcast later where we can go into more detail. But if you're okay sharing a little bit about your organization while we're here, I'd love to have you do that.
Absolutely. So, For the Love of Funds is going to be financial counseling and financial coaching for individuals and couples. So, I am not somebody that is going to be talking about investing with people because I'm an accredited financial counselor. What my main things that I'm focusing on is going to be budgeting, looking at your credit cards, finding out where your debt's at, and trying to maximize your savings. So that's what I get to do with people. I like to talk to them about why they spend the money they do because that's important. It's always been a passion of mine, just having that personal finance area of expertise. So yeah, that's pretty much it in the nutshell. I just have fun with it, and I enjoy watching people make changes with their money and helping them grow.
Thank you so much for sharing that because I first loved the name. Like that captured me when I saw it. For the Love of Funds, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to look into this. And I'm really hoping that when we have another episode that you can really go into detail, give us some tips and resources. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Y'all have a good one. Have a good day and get ready for PCS season because I know it's in full force.
Yeah, yes, it is. Thank you all again for tuning in this week. I look forward to bringing you resources, support, and laughter. Sending my love from the desk of a Navy wife.